So Jim, John asked if there'll be a video that they can retrieve later on after the fact for the video for the webinar.
Yeah, we just started recording. This will be available for everyone as soon as the recording processes. It usually takes about an hour or two afterwards. It shoots out an email to everybody that registered with the full recording.
Sweet.
We got a bunch of people: California, Iowa, Ohio, Arizona, Detroit, Michigan. Thank you all for joining us. All right, well, it's a minute after, so people can still join in as we're going, but I want to get started. I want to introduce you all to Jared and Kevin. We're here to discuss the impending doom of the appraisal industry with the Appraisal Buzz, sponsored by DataMaster. Marty will also be joining us as well as a question asker. Jared, I will turn it over to you.
Super. Thank you, Jim. I think we wanted to start by just giving you a little bit of history between Kevin and I, kind of what we've been doing, what brought us to here today. So I've been appraising since the early 90s. I'm an AQB certified USPAP instructor. I also teach for the Appraisal Institute, several of their residential courses. And in 2016, I joined the DataMaster team as their chief appraiser. My primary responsibility there is over compliance to make sure that their products are not getting us in trouble, that you can use them with confidence. I also have my own fee business. So on a day-to-day basis, in fact, this morning before the webinar, I inspected a property not too far from the office here, and so I'm currently appraiser as well, and training a couple of trainees. So that's a little bit about me. Before getting into the business, the industry, I had a bunch of rental properties and ran a construction remodeling business as well. Kevin, tell us a little bit about your experience. You've had quite a bit of experience in the industry, a little bit more well-rounded than myself.
Yeah, I started back in the late 90s. I started appraising in Seattle. I worked for a bank. I worked for them for about 10 years. I worked my way up into management. I became a regional appraisal manager for them. Then I went from there to work at one of the counties here in Utah. And I was the chief deputy assessor for the second largest county in the state. I did that for about 7 years, all the while maintaining my own appraisal business. And then I've worked for a couple other lenders, a couple of review shops, and I currently run my own business. I joined DataMaster about a year and a half ago as a consultant. I work with them a day or so a week, just helping them to work on their product. One of the things we've worked on was their market analysis feature. For those of you that use it, you can see that and what we've done there. I've appraised everything from your skyrise in the middle of a city to a large farm out in the rural market area. I've seen waterfront, I've seen mountain properties, I've seen resort properties. It's been a lot of fun. I'm also an ASQB certified USPAP instructor, and I've been teaching appraisal classes for about 20 years. So
Kevin, you're pretty humble. You also serve on the Utah Licensing and Certification Board. I don't know that we want everybody to know that, but it's out there now.
I've been on the board for about 3 years. It's been a pleasure to serve there. I see a lot of good appraisers. I see some that get themselves into trouble. We were just having an experience review hearing yesterday, so it's a lot of fun.
So I think the point is that like many of you, we've been in the industry for a while, and there's lots of rumors and things that go around all the time, and we hear those. Marty, did you want to jump on and kind of start this off a little bit. Marty is our is in charge of marketing at DataMaster, and he's going to be kind of the DJ today, or the I don't know what you want to call yourself.
I'll be the MC today.
The MC, there you go. That's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Jared and Kevin, and thanks to Appraisal Buzz for having us today. We appreciate it. So the first question that I have for the two of you is about the title of our webinar here. We called it the impending doom of the appraisal industry. And my first question for the two of you is that really how you feel? Do you feel like the appraisal industry is doomed, or could you give us some perspective on that?
Thanks, Marty. Let me start off by saying, yes, the appraisal industry is doomed, and it has been since 1970. So we keep going through these cycles of pending doom where everybody's, oh, it's going to go away. But it's been going to go away for 50 years now, and eventually it might go away when they come up with some way to do it better. But we don't do it the same way that we did it 50 years ago either. We've changed a little bit. We've modified. We look at things. The basics are still the same, yes. We still use the same basic appraisal theories and things like that. But the way we do it and how we do it has changed dramatically over the years. So yeah, I guess it's doomed, but everything is. We all eventually die, but we're going to eventually make it through all of this.
Yeah. So Kevin, I would agree. I remember getting into this industry, and I had probably only been appraising for a year or two, and I went to an event that was sponsored by one of the local appraisal organizations, one of the local groups, and I remember being really excited about getting into this industry, and then sitting and being told that within 5 years, and I believe it was 96 when I heard this, within 5 years I would need a new profession, that there would be no need for appraisers within 5 years, and I was really worried. I'd switched careers. I'd put a lot of effort into building my business, marketing, and getting my business out there. And to hear that it was going to only last for 5 years was a little frustrating. And then I remember seeing Advisory Opinion 18 come out in 1998. And some of you will be a little surprised that we've had Advisory Opinion 18 for that long. The reason Advisory Opinion 18 deals with automated valuations, AVMs. And I know at that time, when it came out, the thought was that we were all going to be replaced by computers. And I'm pretty optimistic about our industry. I do not believe that. In fact, I think the best is yet to come. With the way that technology is improving, the ability and access to data, there is now a need for those that can provide valuation services more than ever before, and I believe that that'll hold out. Now, will I be doing the same type of work that I did 3 or 4 years ago, or even today? I think that the demand and the ask for us is going to change, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on today, and give you some things that we think will really help you and grow your business for in the future, and that'll be here in just a few minutes. So,
well, thanks. Sorry, Jared, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just looking at some of the comments that are coming in, and the poll and stuff. But it seems like a lot of you feel the same way that we do. That this pops up every once in a while, all the time. Everybody keeps thinking that our industry is going away, and yet it still stays. And I'm excited to show you some of the things that we think can really help your business here in the future.
Great, thanks, guys. And just to jump in a little bit with a experience that I've heard. So some of you may know Rick Lifford. He's a founder of DataMaster. And he tells this story that when he started appraising back in 73, so not quite as long ago as 1970, but close, he said that his boss told him that he'd need to find a new job in about 5 years because he was going to be replaced even in the 70s by computers. And it's 48 years later, and he's still appraising every week. So it seems like that 5 years gets thrown around there a lot. So, well, thanks, guys. I wanted to move on to another topic, and I want to ask you a question about why you think the prediction that appraisals are going away. Why did that start? When and where did that start?
I'm not sure when it started, but it's been around for a long time. I think it comes back to who we are as appraisers. As we go through our appraisal careers, one of the things I used to ask appraisers when I worked at the bank and people that were coming in to interview for an appraisal position was, do you like to be liked? And my manager looked at me and thought I was crazy. He's like, that's the stupidest question I've ever heard. And I said, no, it's really important, because if you have somebody that really likes to be liked, this probably isn't the job for them. Because I don't know about you guys, but as an appraiser, people aren't beating down my door to say, hey, I really like what you do. It's fantastic. Can you be my friend? It's just not something you hear, because nobody's really ever satisfied with what you want or what you do. You're delivering bad news sometimes, and people don't always like to hear the news that their house is worth a lot less than what the realtor down the street thinks that they can sell it for. So I think, I remembered a time where a few months ago I went to my doctor, and, chit-chatting with the nurse, and she says, so what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a real estate appraiser. And she says, oh, I hate you guys. You guys have way too much power. You can influence what people can buy and what they sell. And I said, oh, what happened? It sounds like you have a story. And she was telling me how she and her husband had just looked at buying a home. And the appraisal for that home came in significantly less than what their offer was. And that appraiser was just crazy and stupid. How could they understand, isn't the definition of value what I'm willing to pay for my house? And I thought of that and thought, that's kind of really sad that she doesn't understand what we do. But to finish the story, she said, but it's okay. We just went with a different lender and got a different appraiser, and he hit our value, and so we're all good. We got into our house. And it goes back to, we don't understand what we're doing, and we kind of make ourselves our own worst nightmares if we don't actually do our jobs professionally. And, it's not about hitting a number. It's about telling a story. And if we don't tell the story right, then people don't understand.
Yeah, and I think, Kevin, you make a good point there that if the public just sees us as hitting a number instead of a component of risk, of risk analysis, of market analysis, then they're more likely to find something different to replace our services. There was a question that got put up there that I saw: will computerization will computerizing more of your job lead to less expensive appraisals? And I think that the question really behind that is what's the change that's coming? Technology or computerization. There's a lot of technology that's coming now into our industry. Maybe our industry hasn't been impacted like other industries, but now it's not getting left behind, and we're seeing a lot of technology getting put into our industry as well. And I think it will change where our fees come from. I don't know that it will lessen the overall lessen the bottom line for me, the amount of money that I can make or the income that I can generate. But I think that the way I do appraisals will definitely change. And really what I might be asked to do in the future is going to look, in my opinion, different than what I'm asked to do right now. So I would agree with Kevin that that's probably where the predictions come from, is the misunderstanding of what maybe we really do, and the constant look to get something a little bit cheaper, a little bit faster, and believing that that risk can be handled by a computer or technology instead of by somebody that's in the in the field or more geographically competent.
It's interesting that we've seen over the last few years, everybody wants the easy button. Everybody wants to push a button and get the answer. We see that with credit reporting. We see that with underwriting, automatic underwriting and things like that. They're all looking for a way to do the appraisal where they can push a button and get an answer. But they keep coming back with, it's a risk tolerance. What am I willing to risk in order to get that answer right now? Some are willing to risk more than others. It used to be said that Fannie and Freddie didn't really care what the values of their appraisals were. Well, they've been in receivership for the last little while, so that didn't work out so well for them. So they're going back and re-looking at how they look at their appraisals. They actually have a review process for all of the appraisals from the lenders that they receive. And every appraisal is reviewed at some level, and some are field reviewed so that they have a better understanding of what's in their portfolio so that they can get out of where they're at.
I think another thing, Marty, is that, it's really kind of how we see ourselves as well. I see a lot of the questions that are coming up, and I think that we have there's a lot of interaction here, a lot of concern, kind of in the same concern that Kevin and I have. It reminds me of kind of back in the late 70s, early 80s, as the bells, as AT&T was becoming, they were a huge monopoly, and they started to there was deregulation. The federal legislation came in and deregulated them. The breaking up of AT&T, all the little baby bells that were created in an attempt to break that monopoly. One of the things that AT&T did was they changed the way that they looked at themselves. In the wake of what looked to be like something that would put them out of business, similar to what we see with AI, with technology, with this huge data grab that maybe is happening through UAD and collateral underwriting. A lot of us are afraid that our business is going to be eliminated. And one of the things that we can look to is the past and see how did other industries react to this and how did they deal with it. One of the things that I've always found interesting is that AT&T, they looked at themselves no longer as a telephone company, but as a communications company. That was the first step in moving and preserving their company. And that gave them a greater opportunity to provide services and to stay relevant. And even in the most recent past, AT&T's looked at themselves even a little bit different. More than a communication company, they broadened their scope and look at themselves as an innovator. In fact, if you jump on their website and you look at some of the things that they do, they see themselves as the company that innovates first. And as appraisers, how do we look at and how do we react to the same scenario or very similar situation? I think we change the way that we look at ourselves. We don't look at ourselves as an appraiser. I look at myself as someone who provides valuation services. And there's a lot of valuation services out there that are not limited to appraisal work. And I think it's very similar. The railroad companies are probably a bad example because they've stuck to the idea that they're a railroad company. They're tied to those rails instead of a transportation company. That little bit of shift would open up so many more opportunities for them. I've had a lot of jobs come my way or assignments come my way that have very little to do with filling out a form, but are very lucrative and provide just as much dollars per hour in a fee scenario as does filling out a 1004. And especially as the industry changes, for those of you that can look at yourself and say, my business is a valuation service business and not an appraisal business. What other services are there, and who might my clients be if I broaden my professional look at myself?
Yeah, as you were speaking, Jared, I thought of another industry that has had this similar thing go through. As a kid, I was kind of clumsy and awkward, and I broke a lot of bones. So I used to go to the hospital, and I'd have a radiologist do an X-ray. Well, recently, if you go to the hospital to get an X-ray, it's a radiation tech that does your X-ray. And then the radiologist comes in behind and reads the X-ray and tells everybody what it means. But they don't do the X-rays anymore. So it's last I checked, they're making a whole lot more money than I am. So, that's an industry where they've said, oh, we can do this cheaper. And yet it still costs everybody the same thing because the radiologist still comes in, reads the report, interprets it, and provides the data for everybody else.
And really, Kevin tells the story. Like what does the X-ray tell? It's the radiologist that interprets that story. And I think you're spot on. The doctors that 20 or 30 years ago said, all I'm going to do is shoulders and hips or knees, they would have been very unsuccessful 20, 30 years ago. But today, those that have specialized in a certain niche are the ones that are very successful and staying relevant. And that's kind of another way of looking at this industry. There are many of you that are the best at your markets. You know better than anyone else what changes occur in your market, what improvements to a property will have an impact on the market, and which improvements will not. And that there will always be a demand for that type of knowledge and that type of information. I didn't see the poll published. Did we get the poll done there, Marty?
Yeah, we published it, and it.
Oh, so maybe on our side we can't see it as much. I was looking forward to seeing the results of it.
So 84% of the people who answered said that they have heard that the prediction that the appraisal industry is doomed, and 16% said no. Okay,
very good. So we wanted to get into kind of some more specifics. As we've talked kind of in this historical standpoint. Marty, do you want to kind of take us into the next section here, where we get into some of the things that I think we can really do to help ourselves?
Yeah, let's get to the positive stuff instead of looking back at some of the negative things that we've heard. So Jared and Kevin put three ideas together that they want to share with you about how to remain relevant and how to stay ahead of the curve in the appraisal industry. So let's start with improve your skills.
So this is so important. There's so many different ways to do the things that we do. I remember when, sorry, having conflicting thoughts run through my head. I remember when regression first came out, and I was doing some reviews for a bank, and the appraiser used regression, and that's all he put in the appraisal, that I used regression. And that's what I used to support my adjustments. but the adjustments didn't make any sense. The appraiser forgot that he was still an appraiser. He was going for the AVM model that it just spit something out and everybody was supposed to buy it. The appraisal was way off because he used these adjustments that didn't make any sense. They caused dispersion in the data instead of the data collecting together. I also remember seeing, different things, for example, yesterday, we had an experience review committee on the state board, and I don't know how I got into this, but I'm the one that always asks all the questions to make sure that they, or at least know the answers from the school book answers. And so we got through determining site value, and the appraiser likes to use land site extraction. So I said, so explain land site extraction to me. So he went through the whole process, and I'm like, yeah, he understands it. Then we got to the practical application of land site extraction. And we found out that he does land site extraction on the subject property. Well, there's a problem with that. You don't know what the subject's value is. So one of the key components of land site extraction is you take the value, you minus what it does to produce the property, minus depreciation, and the residual is your site value. Well, if you don't know two of the different components of your equation, it's impossible to come up with a site value. So in other words, he was using the dump truck method. He was just backing into it and coming up with a site value that made everything look pretty. And that's not land site extraction. So we need to improve our skills, but we need to understand them so that as we improve our skills, we can use the new tools and techniques that are coming out. As long as we understand them, as long as we keep our appraiser hats on and say, okay, that makes sense, or no, adding an additional bathroom to my home doesn't subtract $10,000 in value from my home just because that's what regression told me. We have to make sure that what the answers that are coming out are relevant and make sense.
Kevin, I think that's a great point. I look at where valuation services is going and some of the skill sets that maybe I lack that I need to improve on. And I think looking at CE courses, looking at improving my skill set, it's not so much about trying to get 28 hours every 2 years to satisfy the requirement from my state licensing side. It's trying to get those courses that are going to help me develop my skill set. I look at a great booming industry right now seems to be the Airbnbs, the bed and breakfast, and of course with COVID, maybe there hasn't been as great a demand for them. But the largest provider of short-term rental properties or overnight stays doesn't own a single property. That would be the Airbnbs. How do you value those? What's a partial interest? How do you value partial interest? How do you value some of those things? What's important to the market? That's a skill set that I don't have, yet it's a huge market that I see. I talk to folks all the time that say, yeah, as a family, we're thinking about buying this property in this resort area, investing in it, but we have no idea what to pay for it or how to value it, how to do that valuation. There's a great opportunity if that's a skill set that you can develop in figuring out what should be the rate of return on those, what are the right questions to ask when looking, when doing a value like that. Is that a Fannie Freddie product? Probably not. I don't believe that they rent or that they do loans on short-term rentals or resort contels, but there certainly seems to be a lot of those. There's a lot of other things. I don't think that it's out of the realm to think that there might be an opportunity or a time in which you'll be asked how that Bitcoin transaction related to a cash transaction. We already know that there have been transactions that are occurring across the country using Bitcoin in real property. Well, how does that relate? You could become the specialist in that particular area and I think there would be a very bright future for that. You know, what are some other skill sets that maybe we don't have? Can you be the one? You have 20 or 30 years, or maybe even 10 or 15 years of experience inspecting properties. Well, if we're going to see more bifurcated or hybrid or whatever types of reports we want to call them, is there somebody who really can provide the training for those that are going to go out and do the inspections? So you have lots of experience. You've inspected hundreds and hundreds and thousands of property. Could you put together a business where you train those that are going to go out and gather that data on site? Now, these are just some ideas that if you step back and you look and you say, what's relevant? Because certainly the inspection of a property for valuation purposes or valuation services is very different than the inspection for maybe there's been a flood that's come through and damaged property, or a tornado or a hurricane, or even the inspector that goes to do a uniform standard building, you know, a uniform building code inspection. Very different elements that need to be identified. You have those skill sets. Can you be the one that's training those? I remember there wasn't too long ago, Jim, you guys had a webinar with Deb Clark and Peter, I just forgot Peter's last name, from LAI, about evaluations.
Peter Christensen, he's no longer with LAI, yes, but that was on the Appraisal podcast. Yeah,
that podcast was amazing to me, how Deb had kind of reformed her business to be able to provide evaluations. And, you know, it was just an amazing thing. I think that's a prime example of what we're talking about here with the skill set and getting CE that really helps you, that's relevant CE, not just checking the box that I got 28 hours this cycle. You know, so I would look at that and quit looking at the CE as what's the cheapest and the bang for my buck, but what is it? What's going to give me the edge, and where am I lacking? What are the assignments that I'm turning down because I don't feel comfortable doing those? Those would be key questions for me as to a place where you could expand your business. I see a lot of classes about REO work. I think many of us, if we step back, we know that the REO work is coming. It's been a long time since I've done an assignment with an REO component or an REO addendum. I really need to brush up and say, because I think that work's coming, and I think I would need to be ready and prepared. I don't want to turn down work because I'm not prepared for it. So improving your skill set, I think, is one of the number one things that you can do to stay relevant and to continue to provide valuation services. The next one we have is update your technology. Some of you, if you've heard me talk before, you maybe have heard this story. I apologize. I'll try and make it really quick. You know, with some of the things that I wanted to do in my career, I realized that I could not continue to do the work the same way I had been doing the work. It was just too time consuming. And so I decided that in the fall of 2016, I decided that my business was going to go paperless. And I watched a lot of podcasts. I talked to a lot of appraisers that had successfully done it. I talked to some folks, and I decided that in 2017 I was going to go paperless. And it wasn't, you know, it was actually the third time I had decided to go paperless. And it wasn't by lack of buying the right equipment, spending the money, investing in the equipment. It was a mindset that I had to change. And one of the advices that was given to me was do the very first 10 assignments with your mobile device. Don't pick and choose the easiest ones. Just do the first 10 that come available. And that was really tough. It was January in Utah. There was a lot of snow. And I remember getting my iPad all set up and ready to do this, and going to the very first assignment, the very first property of the year. And I had my trusty clipboard and file folder sitting there on the seat of my truck, and I left it in the truck, and I walked up to the property. I took my front photos with my device, my mobile device. I knocked on the front door, and the very first thing I did was I introduced myself, and I said, I want you to know I've been appraising for more than 20 years. But today is my very first experience using this mobile device. And the 10-year-old son that was there was really super excited about my mobile device. I think Christmas had come and gone, and he had not got the mobile device that he was hoping for. I said, so I'm going to take a little bit longer in your home, and it might look like I don't know what I'm doing, but I want you to know that it's this new technology. She was very, very understanding. Right up front, I shared with her. I go to take the front photo, or the photo of the living room, and the whole device goes black. And I panic. And the 10-year-old says, oh, no, that's not a problem. Here, just do this. Click, click. And there was my photo. And the 10-year-old followed me around for the rest of the inspection. I went in the backyard. I did my measurements. I did everything the way I had practiced. And I remember sitting back down in the truck for the first, after I had finished. I grabbed my file folder and I wrote down everything I could remember about the inside of that property because I was just really nervous. Well, by about the 9th or 10th report, the file folder stayed at home. I didn't need it anymore. I had, for me, that's how long it took for me to curb this technology gap. And now it takes me way less time with my mobile device than it would with the clipboard. And so that's one thing that I think you need to really figure out. We see, we're no longer taking orders by fax machines. And most of you maybe are not even getting orders anymore through email. You're probably getting them through an app on your phone or through a text message that you then click a link and go to somebody else's website to engage in that order. Everything is constantly changing. And one thing that I have realized over the interaction with thousands of appraisers over the last couple of years is that you are very, very good at measuring change, but we're not so great at adopting change. And that's really one of the things that I think you need to do is commit to. I see in the future, I think within the next 18 months, if you're not able to do an inspection with a mobile device, with no pen and paper, your work is going to seriously be diminished. The amount of data that you're going to be asked to collect and the speed at which you're going to need to evaluate that data is going to continue to get faster and larger, more data and faster speed turn times. And if you can't do it with a mobile device, you're going to get left behind. And I would take this time now to figure out how to do it. Kevin, what are your thoughts about technology and what you're seeing and what's your impression on technology?
When we first started talking about this, first thing that came to my mind was, reviewing appraisals and seeing the sketches that appraisers had hand drawn with pencil in the field, taken a photo of and uploaded to the appraisal report. They don't have any sketching software. The calculations done to the side. And, it's really kind of sloppy. It's hard to read. But we've gone so far away from hand sketching every property and putting it in as that's the sketch we represent. We have multiple appraisal softwares out there that will help sketch a property. They'll help do all the math for you. And we just sometimes as appraisers drag our feet like, no, it's going to cost me $200 for that software that will save me thousands of dollars in the future, but it's going to cost me $200 for it, or whatever the cost may be. We sometimes overlook the advantages of what we got in front of us because of what we have behind us. I think Jared's correct. If we don't start learning how to use technology, use our mobile devices to help us collect the data. There's so much more data out there that everybody thinks is relevant, and until they collect it and analyze it and determine if it is relevant or not, they're gonna want it. Working in the mass appraisal industry, they've been doing appraisal on AVMs, basically on lots of tax evaluations for years. Some are better than others, and with all of those components, they have lots of people in the county I worked with. We had 37 different people that all they did was scrub data and look at data and try and make it consistent so that the models would work when they modeled the properties and came up with values. So we're basically the data scrubbers for everybody, and we have to have it right and reasonably accurate. And there's more points that they want to bring so that we have more points of data, more points of reference to be able to determine what a value of a property is. So I think we have to be on board with the technology, look at ways to improve the way we do it. I've not gone paperless yet. I've tried 3 times and I've failed so far. So, but there's a fourth coming. I can see it, because I know that's where we're headed, and I know that's what needs to happen. So I keep trying different softwares, and eventually I'll come up with something that I'm comfortable with. And I tried my 10, Jared, and I went back. So anyway, but there's another try coming. I know it.
Well, yeah, thanks, guys.
Go ahead, Marty.
Oh, I was just saying it sounds like a lot of these technologies can help you communicate better, communicate value and risk better. And I just wanted to run in to get into the communication part, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, Jared.
We tend to ramble. I think Vanessa, there's a couple of really good questions that have been popping up here, and I get a little distracted trying to watch the QA, the questions that are coming. Vanessa asked, would Kevin, would we encourage people to get into the industry knowing what we know about the appraisal business or the valuation service business? And my answer is absolutely yes. We need those young folks to get into the business, and we also always need we need a new perspective on what we're doing. I've had the opportunity to train 6 appraisers. I'm on my 7th right now, and it's always amazing to me to watch their growth and to see things that maybe I was missing because I was stuck in doing it the way that I always thought that it should be done. Analyzing markets and trying to stay relevant. Many of you, maybe the things that counted or mattered in your market 20 years ago don't matter anymore. I know the first inspection I went on, my trainer, he said, now I'm going to go in the backyard and take a picture of the back of the house. I want you to count all the apple trees, the fruit trees that are back there, and I need to know what type of tree it is and how many there are and about how old you think they are. I haven't counted a fruit tree in my market for a long time because we just don't preserve fruit anymore. We go down to the store and we buy it. But back in those days, if you had a canning kitchen and you could grow your own fruit, there was some extra value in the marketplace for that particular type of home in that particular market. But those have gone away. And so I think absolutely getting new folks in that understand technology a little bit better than I do, and understanding how to be able to implement that into our business is great.
I would give a resounding yes as well. I don't know how many appraisers I've trained. I should count them, but anyway, if you want to really challenge your process, and those that have worked with me know that I'm big on process, but you constantly challenge your process to find better ways of doing it. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a trainee, because they're like 2-year-olds. They always ask, why? Why do you do that? Right. Why? Right. Why? And they want to know everything. It's just like a 2-year-old. They want to know everything. And then you have to realize, really think about it and say, you know, this is why I do it. And this is why it's important. Or, maybe it's not so important. Maybe that's just something somebody taught me way back when. So to move on a little bit with communication, you know, we started off by an appraisal is a story. You know, we need to communicate our story. We need to communicate our answers to the questions. You know, so what type of story do you want to write as you're communicating your appraisal? Hopefully it's not a mystery novel where nobody knows what you did or why you did it or how you did it. Hopefully it's not a romance novel. That would be just creepy. But hopefully it's something that provides enough information that the reader can understand what you did, how you did it, and why you did it. And that they can come up and say, oh, that makes sense. Or, you know, at least we can have a conversation of why I think you're nuts. So we need to tell the story. We need to communicate better in our appraisals. I've reviewed thousands of appraisals. I've seen some that have communicated really well. I've seen some that have lots of words in them, but they tell me nothing. So don't be the dictionary with just definitions. You got to be somewhere where you're not the encyclopedia providing information on everything out there, but I need information on my home. What is my home or the subject property? What is that about? How can I present that? How do I tell you what I did? Give yourself credit. You've done the work. Give yourself credit. And presenting it in a manner so that people can understand. You know, if we communicate but nobody understands, we're just talking or we're just writing. We're not communicating. So we have to communicate our results so that we're not misleading, so that we can represent what we're doing and we can get people to understand what we do so that we remain relevant.
Kevin, I really appreciate that and agree with you. I think the key to your reports being relevant, and there have been a couple of comments here that ask for a little bit more specifics. You know, one of the things that I find that the underwriters are asking for, the investors are asking for, is how does my opinion of value relate to risk? If they're asking me that question, then I didn't do a good enough job of telling them where the property fits into the risk model. And don't be fooled that they don't want to know. That's the primary reason for getting an appraisal with the lenders, is to understand risk. If you're not showing them how that property fits into the market and what the risk is in making a loan on that property as collateral, then you're missing some of the things that they're looking for. And if we miss it as an industry, they're going to go other places and continue to try to find a replacement for us. But if you can tell them how that property fits in from a risk standpoint, you know, right now the market's going really well in most of America. Most of our markets, we're seeing sub 7 day sub 7 day days on market. And yet, you know, we still find that property that maybe was priced too high or has some unusual feature that is on the market twice the amount of time, the rest of the marketing time. Instead of being 7 days, it's on the market 14 days. 14 days still seems really short, but that's double the marketing time. What is it about that property that created a little bit of a hesitation in the market to take it? And so I think that communicating, the whole story, telling it to the very end. Maybe you got the value right, but how does it fit in? That's something specifically that I think you need to look at your reports. I remember not too long ago having a class and the instructor saying, you need to put something in your report that's within the last 30 days that is relevant to that particular market. Don't use stuff that was 10 years ago. Don't talk about the Olympics coming to Atlanta, Georgia. That already happened. And so, do something that's relevant for right now. one thing that I want to give you specifically as we wrap up, and we only have a couple of more minutes here. There was a great question from Dave Nord about do we think that the foundation will step up to better protect our industry and the fee appraiser? That's a great question for the foundation. I'm not part of the foundation, but I think it's a relevant question that Dave brings up. And one thing that I see happening as a USPAP instructor is it seems like there's a push to make us more aware of the different types of services that we can offer, that the foundation might see that as the means for preserving our industry. At the back of the 7-hour USPAP course, there's a couple of addendums, a couple of examples of restricted appraisal reports, restricted reports, and how you can accomplish those in a very short form. There's an addendum that says, yes, I can accept that assignment, or yes, I can do that assignment. I think there's 21 different items on there as to how you can increase your business and accept assignments that maybe in the past you thought you could not because of USPAP. Of course, your state might have different regulations that you'd have to make sure and comply with as well. But I think at the very end here, one of the things that's really helped me, there's 3 different books that, and if you're like me, you drive around a lot, you spend a lot of windshield time. I don't like to listen to talk radio. I don't like to listen to the radio very much. So I have a subscription to Audible. One of the best things I think I ever did. These are 3 books that if you have not listened to or read, I believe that these would be the next 3 things that you need to read and look at. The first one in the middle there, The Future of the Professions. The gentlemen who write this book, a father-son duo, they have been predicting the change in professions for many, many years before I was appraising, and they look at all the different professions, and they're from England, and in England, appraisers are called surveyors. And so when they talk about surveyors in their book, they're talking about appraisers. And they're going to show you, and they have some keys as to where our businesses are going. The next one that I really like is The Inevitable from Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly looks at 12 different things that are going to happen. Kevin Kelly has an incredible resume for predicting the future when it comes to technology and understanding what's going to happen with technology. That's another one that I would pay attention to, those 12 things that are shaping our future. And the last one just barely came out. Again, it's another one from the Suskins, The World Without Work. And it talks about robotics. And some of you have asked questions as to, do we think that computerization or AI is going to replace what appraisers do? The answer, in this book, A World Without Work, I think will help you kind of understand. And I certainly believe that not only will AI enhance our work, it will augment what our appraisal services or our valuation services look like in the future. Many of us will probably employ the techniques and the services of technology even more so in the future than we do now. So that's kind of where I ended, and I think that hopefully you can take away something from this. You can improve your communication skills, your CE skill set, and figure out a way to kind of adopt technology. Those are 3 key things that Kevin and I see as keys to preserving your business and expanding into the valuation services instead of focusing just on doing appraisals or maybe only on doing 1004s.
Well, thanks, guys. Now that you've brought up the subject of books, I want to put up our special offer. So Jared wrote the Data Puzzle ebook a few months ago, and we've got that up there. You can click on the link to go to our site and download that ebook if you're interested. But I wanted to get to some of the Q&As. I think there's a couple that we haven't quite covered yet. The first one from Vanessa, she's asking if you feel like there's more opportunities in commercial or residential appraising.
Personally, go ahead, Kevin.
I would say it depends what you like. I think there's a lot of opportunities in both fields. If you like more math and much more income-driven properties cost, then maybe it's more black and white, and you go the commercial side. If you like more of the artistry in appraisal, you go more to the residential side. But I think there's ample opportunities in both.
And Vanessa, I think that the commercial appraisal side is getting just as much pressure to automate and employ technology. There's actually more evals done on the commercial side than there are on the residential side. For every one commercial appraisal that's ordered, it's estimated that there are 10 evals ordered for that commercial property. And so there's not a particular discipline where technology is having less of an impact on one side or the other. I believe it's equal, and the commercial appraisers that I talk to, confirm that out. So thank you for the question.
Great, thanks guys. Braden asked, in a market with very little inventory, we are lacking good comps in many areas. Has market value actually surpassed what the data is showing?
So the biggest challenge with increasing markets and appraising and changing markets is you have to really look at your market trends. What are they doing? And this is where most residential appraisers aren't comfortable, because we don't value going concern. We don't value into the future. We look at the past and we try and value that. But over the last few years, probably the last 10 years, we've been asked really to look at our markets, and look at our market analysis and determine what is the market doing. Make time adjustments when they're appropriate. Support the time adjustments. Explain how you come up with your time adjustments. That would be a great class if you're like, I don't know how to do that. That would be a great class to take to show how do I appraise in a changing market or an improving market. Same thing happens when you're in a declining market. It's just worse because everybody thinks you're overvaluing instead of undervaluing.
Thanks, Kevin. And thanks to Braden for that question. Leaf asked a very timely question here, and he sent over the link to us. He says, how will Zillow cash offers affect market value, such as a seller arguing they can always sell to Zillow for the Zestimate price?
Honestly, I'm not as familiar with that process. I haven't seen it here in my market very much. And I think it's because I work in a non-disclosure market that we're not being offered that. So I'd have to do a little bit of research. I know that there have been other builders in my market who have agreed to buy somebody's property if it didn't sell by the time the home was ready to move into, and they've guaranteed them a particular price. That to me is more of a marketing or a risk on the developers, on the builder's side. But I'd be happy to kind of look at that link and find out some more information about that. I don't have a good answer for him.
Yeah, I don't either because I'm not familiar with it.
All right. Well, let's Jim, see what we can do and get back to him.
Yeah, Jim, that sounds like a topic maybe for another one of these webinars.
Yeah, that's great. We would love to do that.
All right, we've got just a couple more here. So what do you guys think will happen with appraising in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think that what's going to happen is we're going to continue to see a need for analysts who are analyzing the data. I don't think it would be unreasonable to think that in 3 or 4 years from now, your assignments, you might get more assignments where you're being given a greater amount of secondary data that's provided from another source, and then saying how does that impact the market, or what would the market value be of that specific property based on your experience and this particular type of secondary data. I don't think that we'll see a decline in the need for appraisals or appraisal services, other than the normal, as interest rates increase, the need for refinancing and loans goes down. But I think there will be a shift to more of an analytic side than maybe doing the whole process, gathering and doing the analytics, especially as the appraisal industry is aging even more so.
Yeah, I see us switching from being form fillers primarily to being analysts and trying to tell the story of what the data means. We have to switch there so that people understand what's going on.
Great, thanks. Okay, a couple more, and then we'll wrap up. So Kip asks, what is more lucrative, commercial or residential, and is it worth extra study?
Well, I'm a residential appraiser, but I know some commercial appraisers, and they make a lot of money too. So I'm not sure.
I think it's a lifestyle difference also, Kip. It seems to me that the commercial appraiser is more of a 9 to 5, and if there's any of them on the call, they'll probably shoot me for this. But to me, my experience with them is it seems to be more of a 9 to 5 job. And for the residential side, there's a lot of Saturdays, there's a lot of late nights, there's a lot of trying to work out the reports and get them in on time. But it also seems to me that the commercial side has it's more of appraising by committee, where maybe one appraiser has a skill set to do lease analysis, and another one does the writing up, and they collaborate more so than on the residential side.
And then Kip also asks, any advice on how an apprentice can get a mentor to sponsor them?
That is the $10,000 question that nobody has an answer to. Sitting on the appraisal board, that is one of the things that the appraisal board looks at to determine how can we do this, how can we get somebody to be a mentor, to be willing to take somebody on. There just aren't any great answers to that question.
Sorry, Kip, that's a little unsatisfying, I think.
Sorry.
But we're just being honest here. So that, I think, is the last question we've got. And I just want to say thanks to Keven and Jared for talking us through this, and for hopefully assuaging our fears a little bit about the demise of the appraisal industry. And also I want to, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you, Appraisal Buzz, for hosting today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. This was an excellent webinar, you guys. I really love the interaction. We had a lot of interaction, and it's great to see, the promise in the industry, and it's not the doom and gloom that we hear all the time. So we love that, and we hope everyone enjoyed it. And we did record this. Recording will be sent out to everyone who's registered, so you'll get a link in your email.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, DataMaster. Thank you, Jared, Keven, and Marty. Have a great day.